Welcome to MedSchoolCoach. We've worked with thousands of students and their families to help guide them through the journey to become a physician. We are really excited to work with you, and we hope that your experience with us is truly exceptional. We created this family and parent guide to provide more information on how we work with families and what we have found to be the most successful model for engagement with the student and the advisor. We also want to provide some information on who you can turn to with questions or any concerns along the way. Who are the most important people for your student to know while working at MedSchoolCoach? First and foremost is their advisor. Their advisor is the main guide and will maintain the most direct contact with the student. The advisor will communicate with your student in many ways, including through a Basecamp account, email, video conferencing, and sometimes phone and text. Each advisor establishes and maintains their communication with the student using Basecamp initially, and then works out the best way to communicate and share files through the application cycle. Dr. Renee Marinelli is our Director of Advising. She oversees all of the advising at MedSchoolCoach and works with the advisors to maintain a high level of service and make sure that all of our advisors have the tools they need and are the most up-to-date on trends and changes in the medical school admissions process. That next person is me. I'm Tracy Lample, and my role is to work with students, advisors, and families to make sure that everyone is on track and on the road to success. I'll be checking in with the students regularly to see how things are going and to track their progress. Renee and I work hand in hand to make the MedSchoolCoach experience as positive and successful as possible for each and every student. If at any time you would like to reach out to us, our email addresses are under our photos, or you could always just send your message to help@MedSchoolCoach. At the core of what we do is the advising relationship between the student and the advisor. It is extremely important that it is a relationship with honest communication and trust. In our experience, what works best is when the student leads the process, guided by the advisor. While we totally understand that parents may want to follow the process and at times participate in conversations and decisions, we ask that parents allow the student to take the lead and be in charge of their own success. We encourage students to have a conversation with their parents at the onset to understand how they want to be involved so that everyone is on the same page and share that information with the advisor. Parents can be included on the Basecamp account by request and are encouraged to reach out to the advisor with any questions or concerns. Here's the application cycle with some important milestones to highlight. AMCAS, or the American Medical College Application Service, manages the application process for almost all medical schools in the United States. The official AMCAS application opens in May. Many students begin work on their application from January through May. After the May opening date, students begin to file their primary application, which includes their personal statement, activities, letters of recommendation, transcripts, and test scores. The advisor will go over each part of the primary application with the student and make sure everything is polished before being submitted. After the primary application is filed and then verified by AMCAS, the student will begin to receive secondary applications. Students will want to work on those secondary essays and return them within 2 weeks. This process happens through June, July, and August typically. From the months of August all the way into the spring of the following year, medical schools will invite candidates to their campuses for interviews and make decisions on acceptances, rejections, and waitlists. The whole application process is long and sometimes tedious, but that's why we are here to help. So what are some common times when students might encounter a roadblock or a challenge? Sometimes those students who get an early start want to rush to get everything done as soon as possible, but their advisor wants them to keep revising their personal statement or maybe take the time to make sure they do well on their exams at school or on their MCAT. We encourage parents and others to help the student understand that taking the time to do something well is much better than rushing through something. If an advisor is asking for another revision, it's likely needed for that personal statement to be the best it can be. If the advisor is suggesting that the student take the month to study hard for the MCAT or to complete classroom assignments, it's because grades and test scores do matter. The advisor will be keeping the student on track through the process. Your student may feel very overwhelmed or have trouble staying organized, especially when crunch time hits in June and July, when the secondaries are coming in and they are trying to turn them around quickly. That's a good time to remind them that we have tools available to them in their Basecamp account, such as their application tracker, to help keep them organized. One of the hardest times for students is after all of their application components have been filed and it's time to wait. The wait to hear from schools about interviews and results can be very frustrating and anxiety-producing. Schools respond to students on very different timelines, which can be frustrating for students as they wait to hear back. Students can spend this time honing their interview skills with their advisors and sending update letters. Families can help keep them motivated and remind them that the process is a journey and that schools will notify them in due time. Rejections are part of the process. No student will get into every school they apply to, as there are thousands of qualified applicants for every school, and students will be applying to many more schools than they have for undergraduate or even post-bac programs. Schools are looking for students who they feel are the best fit for their campus, and no one student is a perfect fit for every school. Even the top candidates will not be accepted to every program. So understanding that rejections are part of the process and to be expected may help your family member deal with them better. And finally, the now what part of the process. Where do I go? At the end of a cycle, maybe your child is trying to decide between a couple of schools. This is a great time to circle back with their advisor and talk about the pros and cons of each school. Every school has pros and cons which need to be weighed when deciding on where to attend medical school. It could be a factor of location, opportunities, reputation of the program, or costs. Families should bring in the advisor and discuss options to make a strong decision. So what happens now that you've signed up? Your family member will complete their intake form and be paired with an advisor. That advisor will reach out and schedule the initial meeting to get to know the student, talk them through the process, and then get started. It's an exciting time, and we're here to help with every step of the way. Where can you go to get help when you have questions? The best way is to reach us via email at help@MedSchoolCoach.com. Those messages will be routed to the correct person or department. We pride ourselves on being very responsive to our clients for questions or concerns. Our staff members try to respond to all requests within a day or two during the week, and by Monday for anything that comes over the weekend or on a holiday. Even if we don't have an answer right away, we'll let you know that we have received your question and are working on it. We are so glad that you have chosen to work with us, and we can't wait to get started. Here are just a few comments from members of our most recent class of future doctors. The best part of our day is hearing from our students when that moment happens and they get accepted to medical school. They know that their dream of becoming a doctor is going to come true. That's why we do what we do. Thanks, and once again, welcome to Med School Coach.